If you have any questions, feel free to type them out into the lecture.euni chat channel. Any questions for Morning Maniac. When you type out your question, please prefix it with a Q:, so that if I have to scroll around and look for it, then I'll be able to quickly find it. But if for some reason it seems like I accidentally skipped your question or something, feel free to just go ahead and type it in again. The Q&A itself may be heard on Mumble. Most of you are probably hearing this through Mumble right now. It is in the Classroom 3 channel, or sorry, no, not Classroom 3. It's in the Q&A channel on our public server. And by request, for those of you who are unable to run Mumble at your current location, this is also being streamed over to my Twitch channel. So if you join the Twitch TV/Stellar Firefly URL, then you can watch this Q&A through a stream.
Okay.
No problem. I was actually just going to say that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome everybody, and welcome Morning Maniac.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. It's been a while.
And thank you very much for joining us. We are going to have Tim for the next couple of hours. So again, feel free to just pour in those questions. I'm not the person who originally was scheduled to MC this event, so I don't really have a lot of my questions myself. So bring in your own questions, everybody, all participants, and we'll hopefully get to them all. So just to get started, please tell us a little bit about yourself, especially your early days in Eve. How did you get started and led to the formation of this institution we know as Eve University?
Well, my in-game name is Morning Maniac, as you might know. That's a real-life nickname as well, or it was at the time. I started out with Eve in 2003. I read about it in a magazine, and it looked like fun. I used to play Elite on the Commodore 64, so it seemed like a similar game, so I thought I would enjoy it, and I did. For quite a long time, I kind of played solo, trading, hunting rats, mining, that sort of stuff. And socially, I just hung out in the help channel. There was like a general help chat channel for pretty much everyone in the Eve universe. There weren't as many people playing Eve at the time, so it was a lot smaller. So there was just one dedicated channel to help everyone out. And I used to hang out in there first, learning a lot and soaking it all in, and later trying to help new guys as well. And Eve University kind of evolved from that because I felt the need could be better and I could do more. And I really enjoy helping other people, especially in this game, because there's so many jerks in the game as well who throw a cat out and say, "Ooh, new guy, here, take this ammo," and then they're flagged as a thief and then get killed. So, kind of to counterbalance that, I thought I'd be helpful and try to get some structure to that helping by starting Eve University.
Sorry for the delay, everybody. We're having a couple of technical issues on the stream side, so one moment.
And no, it's not 10 years and still the same microphone. It's a different microphone, but it's as crap as the previous one. I actually have a great microphone, but it's sitting in a box somewhere and I couldn't find it in time for this. The real life Morning Maniac, I used to be a rowing coach in the United States, and if that means anything to you, that you'll know that you practice at 5 a.m. or 10, that kind of time, and people always thought I was very hyper that time of day, and I'm really not. I'm just not as flat as people are at that time, so I'm kind of normal at 5 a.m. So compared to other people, I was hyper. I'm a mountaineer.
Okay, sorry for all that quiet level. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty with the stream, so I have actually shut it down. So anybody who wants to participate in this Q&A will have to go through Mumble, unfortunately. So anyways, let's go ahead and keep going. It sounds like, MM, thank you for just continuing on and not letting us get into a lull there. So I'm just scrolling back through some of the other questions now and figuring out which ones you have or have not already answered. Lisa Nardu asks, are you still playing Eve? And that's actually a question that a lot of people wonder if you are, obviously you still have the account active, so because you're logging in every so often, but do you actually play Eve or do you just go in to say hello every once in a while and train skills?
I basically go in once every couple of months. Pretty much every time I load, there's a new patch out, and I need to download it first, and it takes forever. The only gameplay I've for the last couple of years is moving ships from Corsica to Eldrad, and that's about it. I mostly log in just for the chat and just saying hi, and I still enjoy chatting with the new guys and see if I can answer questions or just learn what's new in Eve. But I just don't have the time to commit to Eve. I have time, but I just can't make the commitment to play Eve as I would like to play it.
That's a real shame to hear. Do you at least, give yourself maybe 10, 15 minutes every so often just to see what the new things are and what it's like?
Yeah, I mean, I visit the Eve University forums more often than I actually log in, because to me, Eve is Eve University. That's really all I care about. So I don't really care if there's a new ship, because hundreds of ships anyway, and I don't have time to fly any of them. But I do care what the university's up to, and I enjoy it when people are happy about it, or I can reminisce when I see there's drama. So it's good to see that Saber is back. But anyway, I enjoy reading up on Eve University because for me, I mean, it's kind of my baby. I think it's great that it's still going and it's going so well.
Okay, so Faye Toledo asks, are you happy with what you see in Eve today? And I suppose this would probably go more with your experience from what you've read in the forums and what you've heard from talking to people. And let's see, what do you take as the most interesting events nowadays in Eve as well?
Well, I see Eve mostly as a social platform. I mean, the game itself isn't really that great. It's just a whole sandbox thing. I mean, the game is just a platform. It's what the community makes it. And I think that's just so awesome. The thing is, it is like having another life next to your own. So to do it, you would actually need 48 hours a day to run both lives as well as you could. But I think it's an awesome game, and just the community and the people in it and they come up with and the organizations they make, and sometimes with thousands of people or just small groups doing really well for themselves. I think that's great.
Okay, going back to a couple of questions that I'm not sure if you answered or not, so forgive me if have. But David Mandrake asks, how long did you think the E-UNI would last back when you founded it so many years ago?
I had no clue. I thought I was just going to try it, and I started a corporation before Eve University, and I knew that it was easy to get some people in, but I also knew that when you get people in, you have to have something to offer, or people won't stick around. So I was pretty sure that if I could get past a few few months and get some guys in who believed in the idea, then there'd be a possibility that it could stick around for a lot longer. But I never thought it would stick around as long as it does.
And Algrim Delver asks, was there a single defining moment that you realized that not only was there a need for a learning organization, but you would have to be the one to start it?
No, I wasn't actually sure if there wasn't anything already. I just didn't know about it. But I was involved in the help chat, and I had some friends around the Eve universe, but there's plenty more people that I've never spoken to or didn't know. And I knew there were some training corps that were linked to other corporations. So you would join the ABC Corporation Training Corp, and then if you graduate from that, you join ABC Corp, or at least that was the program. So I wasn't quite sure there was nothing like Eve University. I thought I'd just try it and see if we can get some friendly people in and we can have some fun.
And Kavena asks, what do or did you most enjoy doing in Eve? I guess back when you were playing on a more active basis, and what was your favorite ship?
I've gone through several phases. I did NPC ratting, mining, NPC trading, manufacturing, trading, like player-made goods. Occasionally some PvP, but that was never really my thing. And I think my main time sink has been running Eve University and dealing with everything that comes with that.
Excellent. Arafelis Akira asks, I agree that Eve triumphs more as a platform than a game, but are you still gaming these days? And if so, what are your favorites?
The only game I play at the moment, apart from solitaire at work sometimes, is Battlefield 4. Because I can just log in, get shot a couple of times, then quit, and there's no commitment from my side.
Well, it looks like we've caught up with questions so far. So again, anybody who has any questions for Morning Maniac, or the founder of Eve University, feel free to type them out into the lecture.E-UNI chat channel. Prefix them with a Q:, so that if we suddenly get a big torrent of them and I have to scroll around and look for them, I'll hopefully be able to spot yours more clearly. And new question from Kavena. What did you put into E-UNI at the beginning? Was it a case of start a corp, invite newbies, see what happens, or was there an overarching plan?
I had a vision, but I didn't really have a plan, if that makes sense. I had like a vague idea of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be like. In the end, I didn't really have a plan in place how to get there. So I really relied on getting the right people in, and I'm glad I did. And my deal was always trying to get other people in on the vision and then let them do the work. This is something I can recommend as well.
It sounds like you got cut off there right at the end.
Oh, right, sorry. Well, as I said, or I tried to say, I tried to get the right people in, convince them of my vision, and then let them do the work and the planning, because I'm not the most organized individual. That's not where my strength is.
Well, alongside that question, then I would also ask, what was the early E-UNI structure like? Did you have a lot of people helping you out, or was it mostly just a one-man show right at the beginning?
It started out as a one-man show, and I was the guy paying the bills because was a one-year veteran by that time, which at the time, I mean, you were rich if you had 10 million. So I was paying the bills, and I had the final say about everything, but I tried to come to consensus with the other guys as much as I could. And obviously at first this was pretty much everyone because the corp started out with one guy, and that was me. But when we got past 50 or 100 members, I had like my trustees, who I could rely on for advice. And I've always been trying to rule by this consensus model where everyone had to chip in or got to chip in, and then I made the final call. And when we progressed and got several hundreds of members, we had like the director structure where each director could basically make all the decisions in his field, like diplomacy or PvP or whatever.
Alrighty, Celine Sophia Maricady asks, what are your feelings about where Eve University is today and what it's doing now?
Well, first of all, when I left, I said to everyone, and especially Kel Doom, who took over from me, you can take it anywhere you like. If you turn E-UNI into a pirate corp, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, you're either in it as a CEO or a director, or you're not. So I'm not going to badmouth anyone, forums or wherever. But having said that, I'm really happy where the Eve University is now, and it seems that a lot of people are getting a lot out of it, and that's really the thing that counts for me.
Excellent. Judith Belmar asks, have you been at FanFest, and if what was the most memorable, funniest, surprising moment, if you were?
I have not. It always seemed to be the wrong time for me. I was at a different job. Well, it's 2 jobs ago now in my real life, and whenever the FanFest was on, was never really a good time in real life for me to take off.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, nowadays, would you actually consider going to FanFest, or do you feel yourself, kind of a little too disconnected from EVE Online now because you're not spending so much time with it anymore?
It depends. If I happen to be in Iceland, or it would be a good excuse to go to Iceland at the time, I take my girlfriend and go to Iceland, and then on the side go to the FanFest. Yeah, I would, but I wouldn't go just for the FanFest because, like you say, I'm a bit too far removed from the game and the people in it that I wouldn't feel at home there.
Alrighty, fair enough. Let's see, Captain Jack Sparrow asks, why did you choose to align with Naga, the Big Blue, instead of Dust to Dawn, considering both invites were similar? And I guess along with that, you might need to give a little bit of explanation to all the newer people exactly where Big Blue and Dust to Dawn.
Right. Big Blue was the first alliance that we were a part of. And this was an alliance with Naga, which at the time was a really big industrial corp as well as a really big name. They were probably the only production brand that has ever been in EVE. It would take an hour to explain their history. But anyway, they were big in the industry side. They had all the Tech 2 stuff when no one else had, or few other people had. So they were big, and there were some German production corporations as well, really big. And there was one PvP corp, the Four Horsemen, I believe. And together with them, we were the Big Blue, but quite soon Naga and the German corps, one of them was Omega, and there were a few others. They split up, and we stuck with Naga. The reason was we had these meetings that went on for hours and hours and hours and hours. Like I've been in 6-hour meetings, and not one but many, with Naga and the German industrialists. And the German guys were all about democracy, and I love it in theory, but it's a game, and if you want to vote on every detail, discuss every detail to death, that's just not going to work for me. So I believed in the Naga vision, what they were trying to do. We had a good relationship before them. They were the ones who invited us. They had been helping us for quite some time, so I stuck with them because their leadership model was much simpler. It was Naga decides and we follow.
Alrighty. Mashi Diane asks, what's your advice for someone who wants to start a new corporation? And alongside that, I would actually also ask, would it be different advice if you were starting just a basic to play the game corporation versus a corporation focused on teaching other players?
Well, first of all, if that's the nice thing about Eve. If you want something, you can just go out and do it. But to start a corporation, any corporation, you need some kind of vision. I mean, it can be you and a bunch of friends just doing whatever, and that's fine too. But if you want to start a corporation and you want it to grow, your corporation has to be about something, and this could be about teaching players. And I've always encouraged other people to start similar corporations to Eve University. And in the end, some people have, like Red versus Blue is it's not quite the same, but that's the good thing about it. It's not the same, but it's similar. It's open to lots of people, and it teaches a lot of people. So you need to give your corporation a twist somehow, and the twist could be just your personality, that you do things a lot friendlier than the other corps that are similar to you, or you're just a lot meaner about it. I mean, that could attract people too, but you need to find a niche, and I think that there's always room for that. I mean, it could be just that you're running this particular corp in a different part of space.
Do you think there's any major or even minor differences between setting up a corp, just a general corp, and setting it up that's specifically focused on teaching?
Not really. I mean, there's always decisions to be made. Like, are you going to be neutral or not? And that's a big decision that you need to take from the get-go, because it's really difficult to stay neutral in Eve. So if you start out being aligned to a certain alliance or group of alliances, then down the line it's really difficult to get off that fence and get on the other side of the fence or become neutral, because people will always remember you for being allied with that first group. But that again counts for everything. So I don't think it does really matter. Obviously, in practice, it matters. It matters who you try to draw into your corporation. So your recruiting is different, and your activities are different.
Okay, but at the core, that's pretty much the same, you think?
I think it is. You need a vision, you need a lot of time and energy, or the right people around you who do, and then just go for it. I mean, if you feel you should run a corporation, if you think you're up for it, then by all means, go for it.
Excellent. Burr Melicon asks, which do you think is more buggy, Dust 514 or Battlefield 4?
Well, I'm a PC gamer, so I've never tried Dust. And Battlefield 4 can be quite buggy, but it's the same thing with Eve, actually, and for me, for any game. I just sit behind my PC and play the game that's in front of me. I'm never complaining about, oh, the balance is in favor of projectiles or missiles or hybrids or whatever. I just play the game as it is and enjoy it as it is. And if they change it, they change it, and I don't really care. And the same in Battlefield 4. I see in the forums, oh, this gun is overpowered. Well, I just shot you with a different gun. I don't really care. It's a game, and I just play it as it is, and I don't try to analyze it as much. It's not my job. I'm here for fun.
Fair enough. Judith Belmar asks, what is the best change CCP made in EVE in the last 5 years, in your opinion? And what's the worst thing that changed?
Well, the worst thing is obviously Saber joining the uni.
How about the best thing? There's got to be a balance somewhere.
Yeah, Saber losing his Titan. No, I'm kidding now. To be honest, I don't really know. I think that it's the gradual input of new feature that just keeps people interested and keeps people playing. And some of these features work out and some don't. But like you had wormhole space and now the planetary stuff and some new ships, system review ships. I mean, that all keeps people interested and something to do. Plus, it's always nice to be one of those early adapters, or it can be nice. Sometimes when you jump into something, you can make a fortune, and you feel like the early settlers in the United States, or I must say North America, because there were no United States at the time. I mean, you feel like you're on the front line doing new stuff, and that's always great, I think.
How about back when you were more active in the game? Do you remember, like, a certain feature or something that you thought just was the greatest thing in the world back then?
Well, after a while, when I played, ships got bonuses, and that was great. I mean, first, like a Scorpion had the 6 high slots, the mid slots, and the low slots, but it didn't have any bonuses to anything. So everyone was fitting it with laser weapons because they were overpowered at the time. So there was no benefit to use laser weapons as on an Amar ship, for instance, or drones for Galenti. So I thought that was a great improvement. That just diversified the game so much, because at first everyone was just flying the same thing.
Let's see. Captain Jack Sparrow asks, Norvukaiken, Korsiki, or Aldrat? What was your favorite HQ system?
Norvukaiken for sure, because I mean that was my first home. That was my home village, and of course that was great. But you have to remember that was before the highways changed. I'm not sure if you've ever looked at the map closely, but there's some jumps in space that are like a highway. You jump from one side of the galaxy to the other, well, sort of. And before that, Norvukaiken was kind of out of the way, but not too much out of the way. But now it's really close to Jita, and it's just too busy. But in the early days, Jita wasn't really a hub at all. Everything was happening in E-UNI, in Amar space, because that was the hub. But that changed, and then Norvukaiken got really busy. And then we went to Korsiki because of the Big Blue, really. We were closer to the space we claimed. And I think the move eventually to Aldrat that was made was much better for the uni. But for me personally, I have still thousands and thousands of ships and crap in Korsiki that I'll never get out. Even if I live to be 1,000 years old and fly my freighter every day, all day, I still won't get it back.
Let's see. Zephram Clark asks, you mentioned getting the right people in when you founded EVE University. What qualities did you look for in founding members?
Well, first of all, I drew anyone in. Anyone could join. And then you have to look for qualities as you get to know them. and and those qualities will display themselves. As the fun thing about a game, people start doing what they like, and what they like is usually what they're good at, or sort of good at, or want to get good at. So you'll find that quite often people will be drawn to those activities anyway. Um, and when someone really enjoys mining and you see that, and then they start making spreadsheets and looking for prices, I mean, then when they do that and share that, and they're a bit sociable, because that's important as well, then you can approach them and say, hey, would you like to be the mining manager? And they usually are really happy doing that, because um, they joined the uni, so they're kind of into sharing their knowledge anyway. So usually you find the right people like that, and then you have loose cannons like Saber, which can be really useful in PvP situations. So, I'm making fun of him because he's one of the old guys, but he's useful in a lot of situations. So just getting to know him showed me a lot of his strengths, and we've tried to put those strengths to a uni, and then it had some drawbacks because he sometimes blew up the wrong people.
Okay, well, and since we're on the topic of Saber, we don't really want to turn the Q&A into a Q&A about him, but Celine Sophia Maricati does ask, you mentioned Saber a few times. He's obviously a notorious personality with an interesting history in Eve University. I hear you seem sincere about him being back in the uni. But what do you feel is good, and what do you feel is not so good?
Well, like I said, Saber was always really energetic and keen. He's someone like you've all been there in a PvP, a high sec war. People are sitting around and not doing anything because the enemy's about, and you're not allowed to fire your industrial. Well, first of all, Saber never sticks to any rules, but he's also the guy who gets people activated and gets the fleet together and gets going. It's just in peacetime that sometimes he blew up the wrong people because he didn't read all the rules, or didn't feel they were meant for him. So that was bad, but he just told me he grew up. And you have to remember, this was 10 years ago, and if you're in your late teens, early 20s, you're a different person than when you're in your 30s. So, no, I think him joining the uni is great. And, he was a director in the past, and that was for a reason, because he has a lot of good qualities. So, I don't want to make him shy or anything, but he's done a lot more good things than bad things.
Fair enough. All right. Araphilius K. Kira asks, if I can find the question again. What do you think of the direction of the metagame, the huge SOV alliances, heavy spy activity, and so on?
Yeah, it's never been kind of my part of the game, but I kind of enjoy it's out there. In my mind, spies are the lowest of the low, because in my mind, who I play in Eve is who I am in real life, and that's kind of a fundamental issue that lots of people have. I mean, are you a jerk in real life if you are a jerk in Eve? In my the way I experience the game, yes, you are a jerk in real life if you are in Eve, but a lot of people can keep those things disconnected. But I can't. So for me, a spy is the lowest of the low, but on the other hand, I do enjoy that it's possible, if you know what I mean. It's such a sandbox game. Anything is possible. So yes, this is a part of it.
Do you think it's really a strongly necessary part of it, or just something people like to do?
Well, if you play to win, and that's really the only way to play, in my mind, you have to get an edge where you can get it, and using spies definitely gives you that edge. So, or can give you that edge if you do it right. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that people do it. And I got a question for you guys. Someone convoked me and want to join the uni. So if you want to give me the name of a recruiter I can pull into that chat, and that would free me up a bit.
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. You could just ask them to join the E-UNI chat channel. And for those of you listening to this on a recording, that's a nice little plug there. Feel free to join the E-UNI chat channel, and if you have any questions or comments or just want to join Eve University, and you could, and just feel free to ask in there about it. So, again, looks like we've caught up with questions. If anybody has any additional questions, feel free to type them into the lecture.euni chat channel. Prefix it with a Q:, in case we have to scroll around and look for questions, then we'll more easily be able to spot yours. Hopefully, anyways. Holger Rubin asks, Star Trek or Star Wars?
I'm undecided. I know to Americans that sounds funny because you're either one or the other, but I'm European and I don't care.
Yeah, as Lilith Helleborn states, I'm rather partial to Firefly myself. But yeah, it looks like we have caught up with questions so far. So again, if anybody has anything that they would like to ask, this is Morning Maniac, guys. You'll very rarely get a chance to have his ear like this. So make sure you get your questions out when you can. David Mandrake asks, aesthetically, which race has your favorite ships?
Again, I'm undecided. I go through periods of loving Galenti, but then sometimes I see like an Amar ship and I think, ooh, that's nice and shiny.
Celine Sophia Maricati asks, what's your most challenging time or event in running the uni?
My most challenging, event, we used to do like events like free-for-all frigate fights, and because I was in it and I was the CEO, I was always primaried by everyone, so everyone wanted to kill me. That was challenging. But the most challenging time was probably one of our first wars in HISEC. The first one was challenging because we just never experienced anything like it, and I didn't have a lot of experience in PvP, so we were getting killed like nothing else. So, but that only lasted a couple of weeks. But later on, we had a war with a corporation called Huff Technologies, and that lasted very long, and we didn't really know how to handle it. And in the end, we handled it because we kind of went to the community, which in a way helped us because everyone chipped in with funds and ships, and some people joined with their oaths and helped, and we were kicking their butt. But there was lots of pressure on them on the forums. Everyone was making fun of them because now they were being owned by these newbies. And remember, this was when the EVE universe was a lot smaller, so a lot of people actually knew these guys. I mean, they weren't a small corporation. So in the end, we learned to not put on the pressure, so they actually could withdraw from the war without the public disgrace. So, but that was really awkward. There was so much negative energy flying around that was an annoying time. And also the end of the Big Blue was also a very difficult time where pretty much everyone involved in the leadership position was kind of burned out by the whole situation.
Let's see. For those of you who are unfamiliar with some of these events, we do have a class recording in the class library about some of the history of EVE University. So if you really want to check out, what exactly these things are and you're completely unfamiliar with them, feel free to check out the class library and download that recording. Really interesting stuff in there. Let's see, Captain Jack Sparrow asks, Abel, Illiran, Codell, Cassie, D, Keld, which one was the biggest pain in the ass as a COO?
Cadell? I mean, none of you know these guys. First of all, no one was a bigger pain in the ass than Saber, aka Captain Jack Sparrow. But Cadell was our industrial guy. The thing about Cadell was that he wasn't a really good communicator, so we had all these things running, like lots of pies in the oven, but we weren't really quite sure what he was doing. And it all seemed like it wasn't legit, like he was avoiding taxes or something. But in the end, he turned out like, ta-da, here's a couple of billion, and that was at the time when a billion was still like incredible amount of ISK. But yeah, that was just weird. I mean, I could talk to him, I could laugh with him. He's a great guy, but he just didn't communicate about all the things he had going on, and because we're trying to stay neutral, and if you do something as a uni director, that reflects on the uni as well. So we kind of wanted to know what was going on and if it was all legit and he was dealing with the right people, but we never could really put our finger behind it.
About what time frame was this? Like, what years was Codell the COO?
That's a good question. Well, perhaps Captain Jack Sparrow knows because his brains are a lot longer than mine. Yeah, 2005, 2007. Yeah, that's about it. That's ballpark.
Alrighty. Let's see, Zephram Clark asks, can you tell a story from the early days of Eve University that people currently playing may not know?
Oh dear.
Yeah, pick one.
Yeah, Privateers Wars, Captain Jack Sparrow, but Captain Jack Sparrow knows. So that's I thought he was getting smarter, but obviously he isn't. Yeah, our first war was with serial warfare, and that was at a time when hardly anyone had a battleship, and their CEO had a battleship. So that was a really rare thing, and we were like, wow, we're at war with guys with battleships. And with the help from some experienced CEO, in the end we killed his battleship, and then it turned out he had another battleship, and we killed that too in like a frame of 5 minutes. So that felt like at the time like the uni's greatest moment. That was like Battle of Britain, kind of that feeling.
Victory for E-UNI. Let's see. Rose Challen asks, are you happy how Eve University has turned out? When you started, did you have a different view on how Eve University would be now?
Well, I'm not as close to the uni as I used to be, obviously. I mean, when I started, I was like dreaming of class schedules, like 8 different classes a day. But running Eve University, I realized that that's not going to happen, or unless you get 100,000 members, because it's so rare to get guys, girls to commit to teach those classes. I mean, it's really difficult to find those kind of people who are willing to commit. Say, right, I'm going to teach this class at Thursday, 8 o'clock. And I'm going to tell my wife or my girlfriend or my husband or whoever, my kids, don't bother me because, those people are rare. So, and to fill a class schedule daily, you need hundreds of people like that, and that's just not going to happen. And I know you guys do a lot of classes now, so I'm so impressed how far you guys have come with that. And I say you guys because I started it, but all of you are taking it further and further, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, we try to hold as many as we can, but as you said, it's definitely gated by just the number of volunteers, since we are still a completely volunteer-run organization.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes people forget about that and think they have a right to classes or activities, but that's not how it works. People are volunteers, and even if you do pay them in ISK, my bank doesn't accept ISK for my mortgage, or my supermarket doesn't accept ISK for my food. So yeah, real life sometimes it takes precedence.
Captain Jack Sparrow asks, when the drone regions first opened up and Ivy took a constellation, how hard was it to stay true to the neutral stance but take part in the first drone region coalition?
Um, well, being neutral is never difficult for yourself. It's just difficult for other people to grasp, and that in turn makes it difficult for you. If that makes any sense. I mean, anyone can say they're neutral, but then if you're flying with a certain fleet, then other people think, oh, you're with them. Um, and I remember our diplomats at the time, I think Alboon was one of them, had like a full-time job talking to everyone and making sure that everyone was happy. And in the end, I mean, the logistical issues were also difficult. Um, and that's the main reason why we didn't stay. But diplomacy was one of the other contributing factors of the failure in the end of that project.
Let's see, Vonky Great asks, in relation to Zephram Clark's earlier question, but what can you tell us about early days of EVE itself that younger players might not know about, such as the Stargate mechanics, the smaller community, ship types, and so on? Was it simpler?
It was simpler. I mean, EVE, I don't think EVE was ever simple, but it was simpler. You had frigates, cruisers, battleships, and that was it. You didn't have mining barges. You didn't have destroyers or battle cruisers, anything like that. Yeah, Warp to Zero, that's a good one. Saber. You didn't have Warp to Zero, so you always warped in at 15 kilometers from the gate, which obviously gave everyone the time to kill you if you're slow boating. Yeah, I mean, and William talks about vectors with mining bonuses, but even earlier in the day, none of the ships had any bonuses. Like I said, people were fitting warpians with lasers and a mining epoch because the Apocalypse had 8 high slots. So the EVE University for quite a while had a mine each other a battle program where anyone could join in, start mining, and because battleships were the best mining platforms at the time, if you all mine together, and then if the first guy got the battleship, mining went quicker, so the second guy would get his battleship even faster, and so on and so forth. So that was a great little program at the time. Yeah, some other things. I mean, the community was smaller, which also meant that the market was more volatile. So me trading pre-made goods, that was really helpful because there was no the market wasn't as transparent as it is now. So you could make a lot more money just flying around and selling it in another region. But I mean, there's just so many things. Another great thing that you didn't have size-specific micro warp drives or afterburners, so you'd fit the same micro warp drive to a frigate as you would to a battleship. That meant that I mean, I didn't have the skills for it at the time, but people were flying Scorpions with 8 micro warp drives because that would fit, and go actually faster than warp speed with them by activating all micro warp drives at the same time. So that was great. I mean, the fastest I ever went was about 200 kilometers per second with, and that was with site-specific micro warp drives, but that was in a cruiser with 2 micro warp drives and 2 afterburners. So yeah, you could just, I mean, that would just work. And in PvP for a long time, the shit to have was a Raven with 2 micro warp drives, because you could close any gap really quick and spam some torpedoes.
Definitely a different time back then. Let's see, Judith Belmar asks, what do you wish for Eve in the future?
Yeah, that's a good one. I just hope it keeps renewing itself again and again, so people stick around. I would hate to see it kind of fade away, if you know what I mean. And I don't think that's down to just one big thing, because people will get used to whatever they put in. But I think just the continuous small, or, well, I say small, but some improvements are big, but continuous improvements to the game, so it evolves in a better and better and perhaps more complex game. But again, well, that's perhaps a good thing for the uni, because then people will need to keep learning.
Well, along the line of improvements and changes to Eve, Araphilius Kakir asks, have you seen Valkyrie yet?
No, I haven't. To be honest, I just look at stuff when it's released and not when it's rumored or about to come out, because usually it starts out with lots of bugs, and then after a while it settles down and then it becomes playable. But like what I said before, if you want to be the explorer, if you want to be at the forefront, then you should be reading up now and get your gear ready and go for it when it's released. And that's pretty much every expansion. I remember when what they're called, a certain type of drones anyway, came in the game. I mean, anyone who got the blueprints on the first day could start making them and sell them for huge amounts of risk and make billions in a couple of days. I mean, if you want to be there at the forefront, then you have to be ready for it. Oh yeah, sorry. It's the standalone game, and no, I haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah, like you say, if you haven't looked into it, that's why you didn't know. See, Chow Yuk asks, in the beginning, did you use the same pilot for all activities, or did you develop a PvP pilot, mining pilot, industrial pilot? I guess the underlying question, obviously, did you have alts?
I didn't have alts at first. I think after a year or so, I got an alt, which was supposed to be a mining guy, but to be honest, I haven't used them enough, and I got another account later on, so at the max I had 3 accounts, but Morning Maniac has always been my main guy, and long ago, years ago, I stopped the other accounts, but I've always kept Morning Maniac because he is my main guy, and to be honest, I can do anything I would like with him, so there's no band. I think I used one of my alts, so once or twice for some covert ops to support the uni kind of into scenes. I remember there was the Galenti elections event, which went on, and we were competing against the Corp. You had to run sort of, they were like courier missions you had to run as a Corp. And one other Corp was doing it in the same region we were in, and the event was per region, and they were doing quite well, so I declared war with my alt and kind of slowed them down a bit.
A little bit of metagaming there. I approve.
Well, the main reason for that is that I didn't like the guys. It wasn't so much, I mean, they were always swearing at us and weren't particularly nice people. If I thought they were friendly, I probably wouldn't have done it, but I didn't mind blowing these guys up.
Okay, it looks like we've caught up with questions again. So, once again, feel free to ask anything you'd like in the lecture.E-UNI chat channel. Prefix your question with a Q:, in case we have to scroll around for it. Let's see. I have a quick thing myself. What was your most memorable, like, for you personally, not some major aspect of EVE Online, but your most memorable, like, event from back when you were very actively playing?
Yeah, I find it very difficult to pinpoint one thing. Like I said, I really had that little Britain feeling when we killed those two battleships in our first war. Um, but there have been so many. I mean, when the first guy actually joined Eve University on the first day, I thought, wow, this might actually work. I mean, that was a great moment. Um, when we caught our first corp thief, that was another great moment. Yeah, there've been so many. And when we joined the Big Blue and it was actually working for a couple of days, I mean, that was just awesome because that was then we could actually offer anything we wanted to offer. We had our own 0-0 space and it worked as a free port as we envisioned it. I mean, it never lasted and it was all, but,
And you mentioned getting the first student, essentially. How quickly did Eve University grow right at the beginning?
I think we were quite quickly to about 50 guys, and then we stayed there for a bit, and I think to 50 took about 1 or 2 months, and then I think within the year we were about to 150 or so. Um, but it kind of happened gradually. I mean, people were coming in, going out, and I think that's still the same, but we didn't have the name at the start. I mean, now lots of Eve players know Eve University, refer people to it as one of the corps you join when you start out. But obviously that all needed to grow at first. So um, it started quite quickly because of the people I knew. Then it was stalled because all the newbies they knew were kind of in the uni or had been in it and perhaps didn't like it or something. Uh, and then we gradually build our name up gradually.
Interesting. What was E-UNI, being a student in E-UNI, what was kind of that experience like back then as compared to now when you just, back then you just didn't have a whole lot of people, so I would imagine there were not a whole lot of quote, quote, official classes or activities or things like of that nature.
No, there were hardly any, to be honest. Our core was like an open chat channel, like you have now, and my more experienced friends were in that chat channel as well. They weren't really ready to join Eve University because they had their own things going on in the but they were helping out with a Q&A. And next to that, our main thing was events. So we had free-for-all and frigates or free-for-all and industrials. Well, I think we've only done that once, but I remember it because it's the only Eve Uni event I ever won. But yeah, so it was part social and mostly Q&A based, and then group activities like I said, the free-for-alls or to capture the flag or whatever kind of games we came up with, but also group mining, group mission running when that came into the game. So yeah, no real classes because I mean, if you organize a class and let's say I give a lecture and there's 10 guys in the uni, then chances that anyone's going to be able to make it are really slim.
True. Let's see. Zephyr Clark asks, have you been keeping up with a new Eden Open at all these past couple of weekends?
To be honest, I don't even know what it is. Is it like the former Alliance tournament, as they used to call it?
Yeah, the Alliance tournament is still going on, but essentially, yes, the New Eden Open is another type of competition that's basically just smaller in scope and with different rules.
Right. Well, as you can tell, I haven't been keeping up. I have in the last few years watched the Alliance tournament a few times, and a bunch of years ago I did participate on the behalf of the Ivy League, and I did pretty well. I was the slowest to die in our team, so if anything, that I think that's a good thing.
Alrighty. Araphelis Kakir asks, do you think, if you were still directing anyways, we would be trying out NBSI?
It really depends. I'm all for trying whatever works. And I know in recent times the high-sec war deck thing has been changed a bit and relaxed a bit because what we used to do didn't really work for the uni anymore. And I think changes like that have to constantly evaluate your policies and not just stick to them because of tradition or whatever stupid reason you may have. So I would consider it. I mean, I'd consider it every day, but I can't say yes, we would be doing it or not. It really depends, and I will rely heavily on the input from other directors to make that decision because it is quite a big decision. If you change, it's difficult to go back unless you make it an event. I mean, you could try it for a week and announce it to everyone and see what happens. But I would always consider it.
Excellent. Pretty much what we're doing now, in fact, for those of you who are unfamiliar. Captain Jack Sparrow asks, in the beginning when E-UNI was just a help channel before the Corp, what did you want to offer in your channel that wasn't offered in the CCP help channel?
That didn't actually last very long. I think the Corp was started quite soon after the channel, but there was a time when there was just a channel. Well, the basic thing was the moderation. The help channel was moderated, but again by volunteers, and it wasn't really moderated well. And in the time I was hanging out there, it kind of deteriorated over time. People were being less helpful. So that's one of the reasons why I started a different channel where I had some friends helping out who I knew were actually helpful. And then try to get the new guys into that channel.
I guess that also brings up the question, what did you want to offer in starting the corporation itself that just wasn't, available through just having a help channel or just wasn't available through a lot of other corporations?
I think the main thing of my vision and also of Eve University, and I think that's still the case, is that Eve is a pretty harsh environment, and I wanted to create kind of a warm home for especially new people because lots of people try to take advantage of you because you don't know everything yet. So all these strange game mechanics that you get flagged and Concord comes out to kill you while you think you've done nothing wrong. People try to rip you off and stuff like that. I wanted to create a friendly environment where people were welcome regardless of how many skill points they have. So I think that was the main vision I had for Eve University and starting a group like that.
And one moment.
Well, it was not one moment. It was kind of a vision that grew throughout a year. I mean, I noticed even in the help channel that people were getting less and less friendly and more competitive in a way, and kind of looking down on new people, which I think is strange because, I mean, it might be President Obama sitting behind a computer playing a game. I mean, why would you look down on someone like that just because he has less skill points? Might not mean that he's not a great guy or someone with lots of potential or skills in real life. And that's, I mean, I think being in Eve University in any role, you must recognize that it's about the guy behind the PC. So that idea just slowly grew, and it kind of was in my mind, to balance the nature of the game where people are rewarded for being a jerk.
Okay, sorry for that brief pause there. But okay, I'm back. Sorry, a little bit of real life issue there. Celine Sophia Maricady asks, what are you most disappointed about with CCP in the development and direction of the game, and what are you most pleased with?
Well, like I said before, I just play the game, and I don't really try to analyze it from that point of view. I mean, at times you're dealing with some bugs, and that's annoying, or you just, yeah, I mean, you're finding stuff in the interface. I mean, at some point, the cooperation interface is really difficult. You're spending lots of time just dealing with getting the technology right instead of dealing with the real issues that you wanted to deal with. You first try to get your tools in order. So that could be frustrating. But yeah, most of the time I just try to play the game what's in front of me. And I'm sure if I would be in a large alliance playing those large battles and dealing with lag all the time, that would just make me quit, to be honest. Because playing a game with 1 FPS or even less, that just does not appeal to me at all. And what I'm most pleased with, actually a little thing. I already told you I have like 1 million of items all over the Eve universe. And I've been kind of prodding the CCP guys that I was talking to sometimes. Like every time I did talk to a CCP guy, and that didn't happen much, by the way, but I would drop in like, oh, asset search function, please. And after a year or so of prodding, it actually happened. So that was a great little personal victory. I'm not sure if they did it because of me, but I was really happy with it, and I like to think that I had something to do with it.
It's always the little things that are oftentimes the most helpful. Let's see. Zephram Clark asks, what are your thoughts on other newbie-centric corporations like RVB and Brave Newbies? Has the tone of EVE changed over time to be more new player friendly? And I guess overarching is this, have you been keeping up with some of these other new player corporations and alliances?
I'm aware of Red Voice Blue because they've been around for a bit more, and Brave Newbies doesn't really ring a bell to me, but that's fine. I've always encouraged everyone to go for it because one of the first things you hear, or things you hear the most as a CEO of Eve University, is, oh, you're doing it all wrong. So my reply is always, well, show me how to do it right then. And then that kind of shuts most people up. But I've always encouraged it, and one of the reasons I founded Ivy League, one of the thoughts behind it, one of the things I always hoped for was to have like kind of a competition with other institutions, kind of like an athletic league in the United States between universities, where you could play whatever sort of game, or just a PvP war and with certain restrictions, or to have fun with that. I mean, that was always a thing in the back of my mind, but when I was CEO, there was never really any newbie corp that could compete with us numbers-wise. I mean, sometimes someone tried it and they got to about 10 people a membership and they got bored or didn't get into an argument or something or didn't get it right in some other way. So there was never any competition, but I would have liked it. So I think it's great if other people try it. I don't know if that means that the universe got friendlier towards new guys. Perhaps it has been. Perhaps Eve University had something to do with that, showing that you can be successful with new guys, even in PvP. Or perhaps it's just because the universe got a lot bigger, so there's more similar-minded people around.
Yeah, we've always been very open towards a lot of other, quote, quote, learning corporations or instructional corporations. And every so often we also cooperate with them or coordinate with them at the very least to get some events going between us. So that's definitely the the kind of view that we take even to this day. Let's see. Arafelis Kikir asks, we had an interview with another corp leader recently, the Matani, who recommended that the best thing for new players was to get used to loss, so they should be thrown into combat as quickly as possible in tackling frigates just to break their fear of losing things and getting potted. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think you are not your ship. But on the other hand, I do realize that, especially when you're new, it takes a lot of effort to buy those ships. But in a lot of corps, you're refunded your frigate or even your models sometimes, or you can just take them from a corp hangar or something. There's ways around that, so you don't suffer a big loss. I mean, I'm the worst guy to talk because I think I've been potted once or twice, and that was in a period of at least 6 years of really intensive playing, like maybe 40 hours a week or so. Well, if I play Battlefield 4, I get killed at least 40 times an hour, or a minute perhaps. Anyway, so I think I definitely had a fear of losing stuff in Eve, but it's something that I could have done without and probably had more fun playing PvP if I didn't have that fear. So I think he's right. Yeah, get out there and try. And if you lose, no worries. Go out and have fun.
And Sarens Leftnut asks, this may have been asked, but what is it like to see your creation continue and thrive?
It's amazing. I mean, like I said before, I would accept it if the university would go into a completely different direction and turn rogue or whatever. I wouldn't turn back and say, oh, you guys shouldn't do that. It's my baby. But I'm so glad that it continues on the similar path, and I'm so proud what has been become and just the numbers of people that have been helped by it. I mean, it's kind of a warm, fuzzy feeling when I think about it.
On a sort of kind of related question, if you actually found that you had the time these days, would you consider coming back and being a more integral part of University again?
Short answer, yes. If I retire tomorrow, I would, but I wouldn't want to do it halfway. So it's either all or nothing. And that doesn't mean I want to aim for the top spot, by no means. I think Asmo is doing a great job doing that, but I would like to commit, and that could be to any position. That could be like the mining director or just the guy doing some recruitment interviews. But if I want to do anything, I would want to do it right.
Excellent. It looks like we've caught up with questions again, so I'll just say again, if you do have any questions for Morning Maniac, feel free to type them out into the lecture.uni chat channel. Prefix your question with a Q:, so that if we have to look for it, then hopefully we will not miss it. Not a question, but a statement that a few people have made so far. Thank you very much, Morning Maniac, for Eve University.
You're welcome, and tell your girlfriend or wife or partner or children that I'm sorry.
Let's see. 70 Quincannon asks, any ideas how CCP could appeal to the current generation of gamers? Bridge the gap, if you will, between a game like EVE Online and games that require no real time investment to enjoy, like Battlefield 4.
It's difficult because it's just, I mean, people play games to fulfill a certain need, and I think CCP has to be careful not to try to cater to everyone. That's obviously from a commercial standpoint. I mean, they're a company and they want to make money, and I understand that. But it's probably a bad idea for the game if they want to make it like My Little Pony in space, so kids and 12-year-old girls can enjoy it as well. It's just not the game that it is. And if you try to cater to everyone, you probably end up catering to no one.
Captain Jack Sparrow asks, what was the funniest thing that you had to deal with as CEO, but had to be serious about, even though you're laughing behind the screen?
That's probably pretty much any deal I had to do with Sabre. And then you get this email about, I mean, I remember you blew up someone's mining barge or something. And in a way, I'd be laughing behind the screen, and it's like trying to pull a straight face and say, okay, now I need to write a very apologetic email back, and send them some ISK to make up for their loss.
Nice. Lucius Victus asks, do you think CCP should do a better job teaching new players? And if yes, what should they work on first?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, because in a way, it's a sandbox game. But I mean, CCP doesn't really teach you anything when you start. I mean, I know they now have like a new player experience and tutorial kind of game thing. I mean, when I started, that was really bad, and I'm not saying, when I started everything was better or more hardcore. It wasn't. It was just different. But it's a sandbox game, so basically when you're new, you're kind of like a baby, and it's up to the world to teach you how to behave or not. So I do like that aspect of just throwing people in at the deep end, but I'd also realize that if you're holding CCP stock and you want the company to make money and you want the game to continue to exist financially, just the company, then you obviously need to cater for your new guys a bit better than they usually do. Because from what I gathered, the whole tutorial still isn't that great. So yeah, I'm not sure. There's two sides of it, and I do understand that they need to do a better job for CCP as a company, but in the way the game is, I think it's great that there's a room for the school like Eve University. So it is like real life. You're being born as a baby, you don't have a clue, and then you go to school, which is organized by players as well, just like everything else in Eve, or most things.
Do you think that there's anything that Eve University is doing, well, whether it's right now or back when you were more active, that really should be done by CCP, but Eve University had to be created to get it done?
Sorry. Yeah, it was just someone was talking to me in real life. Sorry. Can you repeat the question, please?
No problem at all. I was just wondering, do you think that there's anything that Eve University either does now or did in the past that really would make a lot more sense if CCP did it themselves, but, for some reason they aren't or can't, and so Eve University has to do it?
Um, well, you would think that they would just take stuff a bit further. I mean, um, you have people asking questions that should be cleared from some sort of tutorial. Like all that stuff that's in the E-UNI wiki, that stuff should be CCP who bring. I mean, when I buy any piece of gear, I get a manual, but I I, I have the box from 2003. There's nothing there. There's like a leaflet, like a promotional thing, which is stupid because I already bought the game. But I mean, Eve doesn't have a manual. Well, it's a really complex game. It should come with, well, something useful.
That's fair enough. Let's see, Zephram Clark asks, you talked about stacking micro-warp drives for warp speed and using battleships for mining. Any other really crazy fits that stick out in your mind from way back when?
Um, well, I mean, it was just different. I mean, the game is just balanced different, and also, for instance, torpedo launchers weren't, they didn't have the fitting restrictions they have now. So you could fit your Kestrel with 4 launchers and be in your frigate quite dangerous to battleships, which was funny because back then few people had a battleship. But anyway, you could, well, come to think of it, there wasn't something like explosion radius or something, so you could hit full damage with a torpedo against a frigate as well. Um, yeah, it was just a different game. I mean, just think of, I mean, anyone can think of these crazy fits. Just think of a ship with its slots and that's it. No bonuses. And then just think of the modules not being size specific. So yes, you could fit 8 micro warp drives if you felt like it. It would zap your cap straight away, but you didn't have the cap penalty at the time, so you would have a lot more cap. You could run it for 1 or 2 cycles, all 8 micro warp drives. I mean, it's totally useless because you warp through several grids in a couple of seconds. You're going several AU. I forgot how fast you were going, but faster than anything to warp anyway. But it was totally useless in practice, but it was just for like fun fittings. But yeah, you could fit anything at the time.
Hufflon asks, how, if at all, did your experience running E-UNI translate into real-world skills?
That is actually a really good question. The most important thing is it gave me confidence that I could actually manage stuff and manage people, and it also showed me what I was good at and what I wasn't good at. Like I said before, I'm not a particularly organized individual. So that's good to know because sometimes you need to be organized. Partially thanks to Eve University, I know that I need to focus on those moments and activities. But also the style, because I had a certain style of leadership running the Eve University, and I learned how that worked to a point, and I learned how to make that work as a leadership style. I said before I was a rowing coach in my previous job, and that's also kind of a leadership role. And I never had to scream at anyone or force people or punish people. I never did that in the uni. I never had to do that in real life. I just learned to develop my own leadership style, and that's been really helpful. The downside of it is you can't really put it on your resume unless you're perhaps applying for a job in the game industry, but you can't really apply for a management job and say, oh, I ran Eve University, because people will just look funny.
Unfortunately. How about in the opposite direction? Have you found a lot of real-world skills that you had translated well to helping you run Eve University well?
Oh yeah, all about it. Like I said, Eve Eve is all about the guy behind the computer. I mean, if you're new now, you may think, oh, it's about having that particular skill to fire these missiles or guns, but it's not. There's no one who's any good in Eve or famous in Eve or particularly known for something because he has particular skill or a certain amount of ISK or a certain battleship. You know, the guys who are famous in Eve and who are successful in Eve are the guys who run stuff, who can deal with people. It doesn't matter. You can have zero skills and zero ISK. If you can motivate people to do something, then you're always going to be better off. I mean, 10 guys can mine so much more than a guy with a ton of skills by himself. So it's all about the guy behind the PC, and so that counted for me as well. I used the skills that I had to organize Eve University. Just having said that, I wasn't good at organizing, but at least I was good in attracting the right people and recognizing their qualities and motivating them to organize the stuff for me and for themselves and for the others, for the students. So that's one quality I had, which I applied to Eve University, and that counts pretty much everything I've ever done in the uni.
So going back to something that you said earlier about when we were talking about other learning institutions and other learning corporations, you've mentioned several times in the past that if anybody wanted to actually start up their own learning corporation, you would, in a heartbeat, help them out. Is that still true? And what kind of help would you offer to people who are considering doing exactly that thing?
Well, I'm not too involved in the game now, so I mean, if people have my real life email address, I could give them advice, but to be honest, I think that's pretty useless because there's lots of stuff you need to figure out for yourself, and trying to do exactly the same thing as Eve University is just going to work because there already is an Eve University, so you need to give it your own twist, do things different, so people have a reason to join you and not Eve University. But yeah, back in the day, if someone said, "Oh, I want to join this corp," or "I want to found this corp," I would say, "Yeah, sure. Here's some skills. Here's some ISK. Here's some books. Ask me for advice. We'll do stuff together. Whatever you want, really." Unfortunately, no one ever got back to me about that.
Yeah, I was thinking more of in-game support, anyways, instead of trying to help them out in real life. Well, it looks like we've caught up with questions again, so I'll send out the obligatory blurb. If you have any questions for Morning Maniac, feel free to type them out in the lecture.uni chat channel, prefix it with a Q colon, so that we could easier spot it.
Well, I see a remark more from Zobi Fun. So basically you're saying that Eve is more a corporation game and a gamer just solo, it's really hard. No, because perhaps it is to be successful and to make a big name for yourself, but in the end it's a game and you play games to have fun, or at least I do. I hope you do, because why else would you play a game? So if you're having fun by yourself, even if it's just you in that sitting in 1.0 space mining Veldspar, and if that's what you enjoy, I mean, it's a bit like fishing, I suppose. If that's what you enjoy and you have the TV on or not, I mean, I don't care if you're sitting in a dark room. If that's fun to you, then you're winning already. But if you want to make a name for yourself and be successful and be the guy who makes the headlines, then it's in a way it's easier in a corporation. But again, it depends what you want to do, because after all, it is a sandbox. I mean, look at Kribba. He's basically a solo player, and he's definitely made a name for himself. I mean, in another way, you can say it's easier to build your name when you're solo, because when you're one of thousands, it may be hard as well to make a name for yourself. So it all depends what you want out of the game, because in the end it's about fun. So if you define something as fun, then that's what you should do, and don't let me tell you what to do.
And as Saber says, try not to get songs made about you failing.
Yeah, there is a song about that. I'm sure he has the link, but someone did a pretty good song about Saber failing. It was great.
As Vaki Great states. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Kriba, just take a look at Vaki Great's links there. He's basically, I would essentially say he is the one most famous name in EVE Online, at least among the players. So again, we have caught up with questions, so feel free to type in your own questions, if you have any, into the lecture.E-UNI chat channel. But in the meantime, got any additional anecdotes or stories that you can tell us about the good old days, essentially?
The good old days. You mean kindergarten?
If you could consider EVE aggression of learning institutions from kindergarten through a university, yeah, I suppose so. Arphaeus says, tell us about WVU. I'm not exactly sure what he means by that.
West Virginia University.
Ah.
Yeah, I did go there just as a graduate student, though, and I was on a scholarship, and unfortunately I graduated in a year, which meant that my scholarship and my student visa ran out, so I had to leave again, which was very unfortunate because I had a great time there.
Actually, that does bring to mind a question that some people are probably wondering about. But what do you do in real life? What is your occupation?
Well, for the last 15 years or so, I've been heavily involved in rowing as a coach and as a manager. But recently I switched careers to something, rowing is great, but I kind of cracked. So now I'm working for the United States government in my country.
Let's see. New question. Sarens Lefnut asks, when starting EVE, did you have any stumbling blocks from CCP or players?
It's like you start and you don't really know what you're doing. You waste a lot of time running level 1 missions, even after you got access to a level 2. This was after agents came in, but I still consider myself a noob, and I've always considered myself a newbie because there's just so much to learn. I meant E-UNI, sorry. Stumbling blocks. Yeah, it's just really difficult to advertise in EVE. So you start a corporation, you have this idea, and then it's really difficult to tell people about it. Yes, you have the corp user interface. That was terrible, but at the time there's just no way to get the word out, so you just had to chat everywhere in local. And for the first 10 or 20 guys, that's fun, but it gets old pretty quickly. You almost feel like you're spamming in Jita, basically, to get what you want to be doing with your time.
Was there ever a time, or at least a portion of time, when you just realized one day that, hey, we've actually become famous now?
Again, this is a more gradual thing, but I think the main thing was our first couple of wars when uh, outsiders just out of the blue donated stuff, or just in local shout, "Yo, you guys go get him, E-UNI, go E-UNI." It's like, wow, how did these people know us? But they obviously did, and some helped us even. So, and that's when I started to realize that the word was getting out. Um, yeah, it's so great.
It's always really good to just have random little bursts of recognition like that. Araphalus asks, or Araphalus, I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. Anyways, he asks, pardon his historical ignorance, but have you ever run for CSM, or did you think about doing it?
When the CSM came into existence, my involvement with Eve was kind of fading out, and it was more um, handing stuff over to Khaldun at the time. I did consider it at the time, but I had so much real life stuff going on that I didn't think I could give it 100%. So I didn't think it was the right thing for me. I would have loved doing it if it was like a year earlier, but it was just not the right time for me.
Fair enough. Let's see, Zephram Clark asks, any thoughts on social media and Eve? Things like Twitch TV streams covering the big soft battles, or stuff like Tweet Fleet or on Twitter?
Oh, it's great. I mean, and anything you can do to get the word out. And it's like the Alliance tournament. When that was broadcast, I thought it was just the greatest thing. Especially at the time, I didn't have a television, so I could watch live Eve fights on over the internet. That was great.
Mashri Diane asks, why don't we have a mascot? I guess the main question there is, did you ever think that we should have a mascot, or have you ever thought about creating one yourself?
I never thought about it. I'm not a particularly good artist, although I can take pretty decent pictures. But yeah, I'm not good with drawing, not even with semicolons and all that stuff. But the bunny would be a good symbol because it's warm and fluffy and it multiplies like crazy.
I guess that answers Dave Mandrake's question. What would you consider a good mascot for E-UNI? Would you say bunny?
Yeah, a bunny. Well, it's not up to me. I think bunny is a good symbol. Yeah.
I think more people associate an eagle with us just because of our logo.
Yeah, that would make sense as well. But the eagle is probably a lot more aggressive than the uni is, although the uni can be aggressive, which is also a good thing. It's a skill to have.
Definitely. Damari says, not an actual Care Bear? The E-UNI Care Bears, that would give us an interesting image.
Yeah. Well, my personality is really that one of a Care Bear, but I do recognize in Eve you need to be armed to the teeth as well to deal with certain situations.
So maybe a bunny with things.
It's all in your hands.
Okay, it looks like we've caught up with questions again. We do have another good 15 minutes or so if anybody has any final questions, feel free to type them out into the lecture.uni chat channel.
I think it's turned into a brainstorm about the mascot.
Yeah, pretty much. The Monty Python Killer Bunny.
Yeah, I did talk a bit about the social media. I think it's great, anything to enhance the experience. And I remember watching the Alliance tournament quite a lot on the internet. And I still get the Eve stuff on Facebook. That's CCP posts because apparently I follow them. I'm not sure when I push that button, but I do, so that's one way just to keep in touch.
Have you considered, well, at least back when you were more active, using social media as an advertising channel for Eve University?
I would consider using anything that works. I'm definitely not against it. I'm not sure if you reach the right crowd, but if you find that people who are going to play Eve or are looking for a corporation to start out with, then and they are looking for it on social media, then that's a good channel. I mean, anywhere. I mean, if you need to write it on a toilet wall, then in Iceland, then by all means do it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It would probably be more effective as just an internal communications method instead of trying to draw new people, because if they don't know about Eve, they probably wouldn't know to even look it up in any kind of social media.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thought as well, that people who follow Eve in social media are already quite involved in Eve, so they have a corp or decided that they don't want to be in a corp. But I mean, anything that works you should use to your advantage.
Well, it looks like we've pretty much exhausted the questions, so let's go ahead and wind up now. So, any final words from you, Morning Maniac, about where we are, where we're going, and basically any thoughts?
Well, where we're going as Eve University, that's up to you guys. I think not enough people realize that how easy it is to get involved. If you talk to the right people, put yourself forward, you too can become one of the people who decides where Eve University is going. So if you think, oh, it would be great if the uni offered this or that, I'm sure there's still the opportunity, and there always will be the opportunity to get involved and do that. So where the uni is going, it's not up to me. Where it is now is something I'm really proud of. And like I said, I get a warm, fuzzy feeling about where the uni is now, and I'm really proud of all the people who took it there, because it wasn't just me. I just started it, but so many people have put in so many hours to take it where it is now, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of everyone who's chipped in and continues to do that.
Yes, we're definitely at 10 years and going, and that is no small feat for any organization.
That's correct, and I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity to talk to you and reminisce about the old days, and I hope you all stick around in the game, and hopefully we can catch up together in the game, or else perhaps in a couple of years all of you can hold similar lectures about the old days, which would be today.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Morning Maniac, for joining us and answering all of our varied questions about yourself and about Eve University, and also especially thank you for creating Eve University those 10 long years ago, and so that we are still here and making excellent use of it now to get accustomed to Eve Online and learn how to play this extremely complicated game.
Once again, you're welcome, and thank you for hosting.
Okay, for those of you who might have joined in late, we will have a recording of the entire interview hopefully soon, later today maybe, and posted into the forum, so keep an eye out for that if you'd like to have a recording or see what you've missed. And also, as a heads up, this is just one of many, many different Q&As that we have been holding and will still be holding for this, our essentially 10th anniversary month-long celebration. So keep an eye out on the Eve University calendar for other upcoming Q&As, and also in the forums for recordings of the Q&As that we have already had. And once again, thank you, Morning Maniac, for joining us, and thank you for all of the participants for listening in and for all of your excellent questions. And we'll see you guys around. Fly safe or fly dangerous.